Hi, and welcome to Crash Course Cryptozoology. Before this video begins, I would like to personally say sorry for the delay in videos that's been happening a lot lately. There's been a lot of side projects that are soon to be announced being worked on, and obviously I need to divide my time a bit there. But for now at least, I do have time to present what I hope will be a very, very interesting video to many of you. Plain and simple, I would like to discuss footage of an alleged animal in the waters of Loch Ness taken by one Owen Faldagan. Owen Faldagan first appeared on the internet in the newspaper source The Sun in 2019. In that year, he had had a particular sighting while watching the webcams set up around Loch Ness and recorded it using a camcorder facing the screen that was playing the recording off the webcam. He did this again in 2020 and since then has claimed to have had more than 4 different Nessie sightings while watching these webcams. Much of this footage is what you expect from relatively low quality footage of the loch. There's an object that moves across the water in most of these pieces of film, but nothing more noteworthy than that. It could be anything, especially because the quality is so lowered by the fact that it's a recording of a recording. However, there seems to be plenty of reason to not write off the O'Faodhagain footage right away. Specifically, there are 2 pieces of footage that this 55-year-old Nessie hunter has shot that are very, very intriguing. The first piece of footage which catches one's attention was recorded by Owen in April of 2020. It is of an object that he believes to be around 30 feet long and somewhere between 4 to 5 feet high. It moves in a fairly straight line, but displays some rather strange behavior. There is also an enhanced version of this footage that I've put together here. Before we analyze this piece of footage, I would like to also suggest watching the following footage, which was the footage that first gave O'Faodhagain a name as a quote-unquote Nessie hunter back in April of 2019, a year prior to the previous footage. And here is the enhanced version of that. The objects in the O'Faodhagain footage are very, very difficult to explain. Something like a black mass moving through the water is often a boat or a particularly shadowed-in boat wake, depending on the lighting and time of day. And still, while the distance from the camera to the object can't be seen and therefore size can't necessarily be determined, it certainly would display, in that situation, very boat-like tendencies, just being a dark shape in the water. These pieces of footage, these two pieces, however, are different, because they display obviously and decidedly unboat-like behavior. The first object, which O'Faodhagain claims to be roughly 30 feet in length, moves something like a boat. It's rather long, but it moves something like a boat, but slowly descends and then suddenly vanishes into the water when it's gotten very small. This is characteristic of something that is very slowly submerging and at the very last point quickens its submerge, which, funny enough, is a characteristic behavior we do find in a lot of lake monster sightings, especially in the Lake Champlain area in the United States. Length can't be determined. It moves in a straight line. It is very much like a boat, except this boat didn't just descend into the water, it almost decidedly dove into the water. The next piece of footage is even more significant. One thing that's changed, and even Owen Faldagan noted this, the color is different. This second object is clearly white, not black. Owen attributes this to white foam being shot up out of the water by the high speed that whatever this is moving at, and it's very clearly demonstrated that it is in fact moving at a rather high speed as it moves through this kind of S-shaped pattern in the water. Not only that, here's the real interesting thing about this piece of footage. Like the previous piece of footage, it submerges, but then it re-emerges, not once, but twice, before finally emerging again. And it picks up speed that a motorboat might be able to achieve, but motorboats don't descend into the water, and they don't re-emerge once they do. So the question is, what is it that we're looking at here? Could this be a real object? It's certainly most unlike any object that we've seen reported to be cataloged in Loch Ness, unless, of course, you're considering Nessie reports. Could it be hoaxed? The interesting thing about that is usually it's actually pretty easy to do CGI if you have clean and crisp footage, because in clean and crisp footage, most of the background is very easy to kind of fill in if you're looking to have a CGI or photo digital implemented object in the forefront. The problem, though, is that there's no sign of this happening. There is no slightly off color once this thing vanishes. There is no difference in the definition of this object compared to the rest of the film, or even compared to the lighting that we see. For all intents and purposes, these two objects seem to very much be part of their environment, a very real part of their environment, and yet they don't seem to act like anything that we know exists in the loch. Again, unless you're considering the occasional odd report that we do get that many would say is attributable to something called the Loch Ness Monster. I think the O'Faodhagain footage is criminally under-examined and certainly deserves more study, hopefully by someone who has more resources than me. I can draw diagrams all the livelong day, but when it comes down to it, this kind of thing really is potentially significant and probably should be very properly examined. I'd love to know what all of you think of this footage. That being said, until next time.